is Gordon Thacker and The Penguin. It's a spin-off series from The Batman, following the Penguin after the events of The Batman, as he attempts to become king of the crime world of Gotham. Now, when this series was announced, I was interested. I loved The Batman. It was amazing. It gets better every time I watch it. But I wasn't head over heels excited for a Penguin spin-off series, which wasn't even going to include Batman, which was made very clear. No Batman in the series. But I decided to give it a chance. After all, I love The Batman, and this did have Matt Reeves as a producer. So now you've seen The Penguin. This series is amazing. This is one of the series I really can't describe with words. This series is so great. If you haven't watched The Penguin yet, then I highly recommend you go watch The Penguin. The characters are fantastic. The Penguin still feels like I did in The Batman, but we get so much backstory and development with his character. And even though he is the main character of the series, and you do root for him, this series still makes you aware this is a bad guy. This is a villain. You understand him, and you even kind of root for him, but you do not like him. Oswald Cobblepot is another great conflicting character, up there with the likes of Walter White and Golem. We also get to see Oswald's mother, which I thought was a fantastic character, and the relationship between her and Oswald was really emotional. It was kind of the backbone of the series. And there's a character named Vic, which has a very Walter and Jesse relationship with the Penguin, and I loved his character. Almost all the characters in this series are just horrible people, just the worst. You hate them so much. So it's nice to see a genuinely good character in the mix of all this, and seeing how he changes throughout the series. And the villain of this series, I guess not including the Penguin, Sophia Falcone. She is a fantastic villain. She's intimidating, has a fantastic backstory. You understand where she's coming from, you even kinda root for her, but you still don't like her. It's crazy how this show can have so many different characters and you just hate almost all of them, but still root for them and want to see them succeed. And this series is rated TVMA, the television equivalent to an R rating, unlike The Batman, which was a very hard PG-13. Yeah, there's a reason why this series is rated TVMA. This is a very adult, dark series, but it still feels like the same universe as The Batman. Like, one episode is entirely dedicated to Arkham Asylum, which is probably the most terrifying adaptation of Arkham we've ever gotten. Arkham in the universe of The Batman is kind of worse than hell. This series is also very dramatic and emotional. There are times in the series where I was trying to get that emotional feeling, or I was on the edge of my seat. After every episode, I was so eager, ready to move on to the next episode. I was glued to the screen. And I mentioned this earlier, but Batman is not in this series. And I gotta give respect for a series in the universe of The Batman for not having Batman. That is such a great level of self-control. But that is one of my few complaints about the series. Not that Batman isn't in it, but there are some pretty big things that happen in this series. And after a while, it kind of feels like Batman would probably step in at this point. He would probably investigate this. He would do something about this. But that's just a small little thing. Overall, I loved The Penguin. It's fantastic and I highly recommend it. But now we're getting to spoilers. And I mainly just want to talk about how this series will affect The Batman Part 2. Now, we do know this series ends right before the events of The Batman Part 2. Now, this series makes it pretty obvious that the Penguin's gonna run for mayor in either The Batman Part 2 or Part 3. Now, in most iterations of the Penguin, he does run for mayor, so this isn't a surprise. But I am intrigued to see how this version of the Penguin will run for mayor. But yeah, I loved the Penguin, and I can't wait for The Batman Part 2. So far, the Batman Epic Crime Saga has been nothing but spectacular. Also, if you've enjoyed this video, thanks for liking and subscribing, and join the subreddit and the Discord server. Bye guys for now! Bye, Oswald Thacker.